Hi, fourth graders. So far, we've learned about our main characters. We've learned about the problem. We haven't learned about how it all comes to a head and starts to get better, but we learned that there's a new person that's come to their class. We've learned about the bad guy or the villain of our story. We've now learned about the setting, and we've learned about Lainey's home life. We've learned all of our story elements so far, but there's one thing she's going to talk about next, and that's called dialogue. Chapter 6 is titled Dialogue. Dialogue is the conversation between two or more people in a book or a play. That's what Mrs. Smith taught us. It's really just talk. She said readers like lots of it. I looked back through the first 5 chapters of my book, and I'm pretty sure that so far I don't have enough dialogue. So I'm going to try to make up for that now. But there are some hard things about dialogue. Like, for instance, one thing is you have to talk to people. I don't do this a whole lot. Robert and Matt and Luke, they don't like to talk to me, and I don't like to talk to them. At school, Teresa and I talk some, especially when her best friend Amanda isn't speaking to her or is absent. Although if we do this in class, Mrs. Smith yells at us. Besides which, Teresa and Amanda's biggest problem are too little, like whether they should get their hair cut or not. And my biggest problems are too big to talk about, and so that's the first hard thing. The next hard thing about dialogue is that it's hard to get all the words right. This doesn't matter if you're just making stuff up, but my book isn't making anything up. And I'm trying not to put words into people's mouths if the words didn't actually come out of their mouths. I got to say straight out that maybe I forgot some of the dialogue, and even that maybe I forgot some of it on purpose. When I came down from my bedroom, Matt was on the phone. Robert was sitting on the couch with Matt, eating a hot dog and watching the sports part of the news. Luke was sitting on the floor throwing things out of his backpack like he was searching for something. There was no dialogue when I came down, if you don't count the sportsmen talking to themselves on TV. Then Matt slammed the phone down and glared at me. "Hey, why didn't you tell me you had an elephant girl at your school?" "What's an elephant girl?" Luke asked. "Shut up," Matt answered. "There's no such thing as an elephant girl," Robert said. I didn't have to say anything, yet. "Travis said his brother's class got a new girl who's as big as an elephant," Matt explained. "Roger and Lainey are in the same class." He turned back to me. "So?" Luke quit searching through his bag and came closer to join the dialogue. "No lie, Lainey? Does she look like an elephant?" I shrugged. This is not exactly dialogue. Mrs. Smith says it's more of a gesture. "Is she just normal fat like Teresa?" Robert asked. I shook my head. Another gesture. "So," Matt demanded, "is she really as fat as Travis says, or is his brother a liar?" "Yes and yes. Roger is a liar, and I'll bet she weighs 300 pounds, I said, walking in front of the TV on purpose. It almost never happened that even one of my big brothers made dialogue with me, so this was really something that all 3 of them wanted to ask me questions. Robert made a sound that might have been a guffaw. I've seen this word written in stories when it seemed like the characters were laughing. But I could be wrong about Robert's noise because I don't know if I've ever heard a real guffaw. So it's like a or a type of sound. That's what I picture whenever I see that word or I imagine what he's responding to her. "Is there room for this new fat kid in the regular classroom?" he asked. Before I could answer, Matt jumped off the couch and shoved me aside from the TV. Then he asked, "Did you talk to her, Lainey?" "What's she like?" Luke said. I was getting a not-so-good feeling, like they were tired of me not having the answers that they wanted, and that meant trouble for me. "What's with you, Lainey?" Matt snarled. I'm not sure you can use snarl in dialogue, but Matt made me think of Bailey's pit bull that's always about an inch away from biting a person. So snarl works for me. "What's her name? Who is she? Did you even try to find out?" "Her name is Laura, larger-than-life Laura, and she's my new best friend," I said, which was an out-and-out lie because I hadn't so much as said one word to her. Plus, I had no plans to. "And," I went on, "she said to tell you that if you give me trouble, she'll come over here and she'll sit on you." That ended that dialogue, and I went straight to the kitchen. I figured that all 3 boys had already stuffed their faces, so it was safe to get out the macaroni mix. The macaroni had been sitting on the stove in the pan for so long that I had mushed it all together when I heard Daddy's truck. I knew as soon as I heard it scrape up the gravel drive that his dialogue was going to be tougher than I thought. He was driving too fast, and he had to slam on the brakes to miss hitting the shed. If the car had been dialoguing with the driveway, it would have looked like this. "Arr!" screamed the brakes. "Crunch, crush," growled the gravel. I stirred the mushy macaroni and worried about how it might not be so much of a help at persuading Daddy to let me try out for the play. I already had a table set with 2 places, which would have caused some not so nice dialogue from Robert and Matt, who right away said they knew I was up to something. Or did I invite my new girlfriend over for dinner? "Hey, Daddy," I called as he stumbled into the kitchen. "I made you dinner." "Hey, Laney," he said. He came over and sniffed the macaroni in the pan. "I ain't had nothing to eat. Them stooges down at the factory cut lunch break a good 5 minutes. One of these days I'm going to go out for lunch, and I'm not coming back at all, I swear." My daddy has worked at the parts factory for 12 years. Sometimes he comes home smelling like oil from a car. Some other times, of which tonight was one, he smells like beer. I'm not sure which smell I hate worse. We sat at the table and started in on our macaroni. I was real grateful that all 3 boys had run out of the house after Matt got another phone call. I didn't know where they were, and Daddy didn't ask for them. We ate without a dialogue for a while. I knew I had to start it. "Guess what?" I said. He didn't. He got up and took a beer out of the fridge and popped the top and sat down. "We got a new girl in class today." He took a long swig from the can. She's really big, bigger than Mr. Rafter." Mr. Rafter was one of Daddy's bosses. "That son of a sodbuster. He thinks he can make us do overtime without paying for it." He took another swig. "Well, that not nice man has another thing coming." This is not his real dialogue, but I figured that you would know that, and you know why. "The new girl's name is Lara, and we had to get her a table for her desk," I continued, trying to get him off Mr. Rafter, maybe that was a mistake to bring it up. "You know what, Laney?" He narrowed his tiny eyes at me like he was going to tell me something that was going to change my life forever. "Don't you never settle, you hear?" He downed his drink. "Don't you never settle." So far, he hadn't eaten more than 2 bites of macaroni. Me neither. But he got up and got himself another beer. I figured I'd better get the show on the road because he was either going to end up mad and shouting, or he was going to fall asleep right over his bowl of macaroni. "Daddy? I agree with you about not settling." "Uh-huh. So, I've got something to ask you because I don't want to settle like you said not to." "At school, Mrs. Smith says we're going to put on a play, and the play is by Samuel Green, and it's called Fair Day, and you got to memorize lines and even sing a song, and to do that, you got to practice. The practices are after school sometimes, so that means not getting home right after. I wanted to be in a play once." "Well, so you know what I mean. Stupid sons of not nice fathers wouldn't let me. Never did get to. So I need your permission to even just try out for it. I wasn't good enough for them. Graftons weren't all to amount to nothing. Is it okay? Can I tell Mrs. Smith it's okay?" "Huh? Please say yes, Daddy." "Yes? Sure. Whatever my baby wants. I'm going to go watch the game." He got up, took another beer from the fridge, and then he left. I heard the TV come on. In my head, I replayed our dialogue. I'd asked him straight up about being in the play, and he'd said yes. So that was that. I knew if he hadn't been drinking, he probably wouldn't have said yes. He counts on me to keep the boys from killing each other when he's not home, and he doesn't like me to go to other people's houses after school. Not that anyone besides Teresa ever asks me to. I was pretty sure he wasn't going to remember about the Faraday play in the morning or about him saying yes, but he had said it, and that was enough for me to do the trying out. Besides, I dialogued to myself, I probably won't get the part in the play anyhow. Graftons don't get parts in plays.